Hello, do you hear me properly?
Yeah, great.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for joining our session today, which we are very proud to present. Just before we go into the event itself, I would like to ask the participants to switch on their cameras where possible. Remember, the specialists we are meeting today are psychiatrists, psychologists, and they would love to see our faces and our reactions, which is absolutely understandable. And so therefore, I would ask wherever possible to switch on your cameras. Letfa Hanım, good to see you. So, if you allow me, I would love to greet you all on behalf of Azerbaijan France Chamber of Commerce, which we are represented today by Aygün, by Nargiz Aygün Aliyeva. She is the representative of Azerbaijan France Chamber of Commerce. Then it is Nargiz Vezirova and myself. Nargiz and me, we are representing the Women Professional Committee of Chamber of Commerce, at the initiative of whom the event is taking place. Azerbaijan France Chamber of Commerce has already been a player in the market, a notable player in the market for a number of years, and in recent years I am sure the members have heard and seen many interesting initiatives that this chamber has undertaken, and one of which was this Women Professional Committee, which was established last year. And interestingly enough, when the issue of what committees would chamber benefit the most, they have conducted a survey, and Women Professional Committee has come up as one of the desired platforms for chamber to, the people believe that the chamber could be helpful. And Nargiz and myself, we are I am a chair of the committee, Nargiz is deputy chair. We are the team of two, which are trying our best to help Ziber Hanım and Aygün Hanım to carry on their mandate. We have conducted several events throughout last year. Thank God for online platforms which has made that possible. And they have been very successful and very well received. So today's event is one of similar initiatives. So I don't want to take too much of your time. Today's event has been kindly helped, or kind of, just has been built on very kind readiness of our esteemed speakers, who have dedicated some time of their, I'm sure, very busy schedule to enlighten us on the issues like post-traumatic stress disorders, burnout, that we are all going through in this time. So Gulay Hanım and Nargiz Hanım, both are very highly esteemed professionals who are who have started this initiative of AMSEA without very much kind of taking their time. I would love to give the floor to Gulay Hanım, Nargiz Hanım, whoever is the one who is going to speak first. And I would really love you to give a few words about your platform, AMSEA, and then we'll take it from there. Once our esteemed speakers will give their speech, the floor will be open for questions. So therefore, I repeat again, if at all possible, please switch on your cameras whenever possible. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me here. And thanks everyone who switched on their cameras, because this is really hard to talk to yourself, to computer, especially if you're a psychiatrist. So thanks again. My name is Gulay Mammadzade, and I'm an assistant professor at the Department of Psychiatry of Azerbaijan Medical University. I'm currently doing my master's degree in public health at Imperial College London, and I'm also a practicing psychiatrist at the University Hospital. So I was really excited to receive the invitation to participate in this meeting, because for as long as I remember myself, I also always wanted to be independent woman who is self-realized. So this topic is also very sensitive for me as well. And just a second, I'm sorry, I cannot share my screen. Can you please turn on the screen sharing?
Hanan, I suppose you need to
No?
give.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I see now. Okay. So I want to talk today on psychological resilience, what it is, and what were the main challenges that we had during this tough COVID era, and which we're still having actually, and what kind of stress reactions have we developed, and what can help us to fight these reactions, such characteristics as resilience and optimism, and what we can do to train them in ourselves, and how can we manage thinking traps that we fall into from time to time. And so we all know what happened 1 year ago. Our lives changed. I will not go too much into it because everyone is aware of that. And not only we changed, life around us changed. We realized that we are different than we thought of ourselves. And we realized that we are able to do things that we would not expect from ourselves, that we were able to do. And so there were lots of challenges that we had to overcome during all these tough situations. And I would say that for women, these challenges were even tougher than for everyone else, because not only we had to work from home, well, everyone had to work from home, but in case of women, you also have to manage lots of other things that are not related to your work. And due to these things, you had to, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes by force, you had to quit your job. You were more impacted by the layoff. And especially since women are more on the middle managerial positions, well, not usually, not always, but usually, so they were more often to sacrifice their jobs, to become unemployed. And even for those women who were at lead executive positions, they were expected to manage it all, because no one is expecting you to that you're stressed, that you don't have enough energy, that you have lots of other problems except for your work. So you are expected to manage it all. And one of the most difficult situations that we face, I guess many of us faced during this COVID era, you can see this on the slide, someone who was working from home as well experienced that as well. So, well, actually, what is different about the stress due to COVID? Because, well, one can say that all of us experience stress from time to time. It's normal. We all work and stress are actually word synonyms for everyone. So what is different about the COVID stress? What made it so tough, and what is there about it that makes us talk about it that much? So the situation with the COVID was different because the stress was chronic, and I'll go into more details in a couple of slides. So it just suddenly started, and we had no idea how long is it going to last, and we had no option on forcing certain situations. We just had to sit and wait. And due to the fact that we are actually not adapted, not adjusted to experiencing chronic stress, as opposed to acute stress, well, usually our bodies during the evolution, physiologically, we are all adapted to acute stress. That's normal. Something happened, that's natural disaster, or something's happening on the stock, or the boss just screamed at you and you know that you have to change something very rapidly. And so acute stress requires your immediate reaction. And all of us experience acute stress, and we all know that when we're stressed, we're feeling dizzy, we breathe quickly, we feel sweaty, we want to scream or cry or laugh, or we're scared or nervous. But all of these reactions are perfectly normal because we have to react like that. You probably heard a lot about this reaction on fight or flight. You either have to fight or you have to run away. And in both cases, you just escape and you solve the situation, like positively or negatively. Well, it depends. But anyway, so your body makes you prepared to run or to fight with all these reactions that you see now on the slide. So this is about the acute stress. But then our bodies are not adjusted to being chronically stressed. So when you're chronically stressed, all of these reactions, well, you see here on the slide that, I will not go into deep with all the neurochemical reactions that take place in our bodies. But to put it shortly, when we're chronically stressed, when we have no idea, when we're like just flying in the air, waiting what's going to happen, and you see here on the slide as well. So when we're just waiting what's going to happen, lots of things that would be helpful to us in case of acute stress become very problematic. Lots of cortisol, adrenaline flashing in our bodies, and making us very sensitive, making us very prone to cry. We lose our sleep. We cannot sleep normally. And when we're chronically stressed, we start changing our lives to adapt to the stress. So some people start eating too much. Some people start smoking too much. Some people start inadequately exercising. Some people do some other psychoactive substances. Some people just cannot sleep. And this is terribly, this is the most terrible thing that can happen to our bodies, loss of sleep. And so usually you probably think that chronic stress, well, that is only a mental thing about us, but actually chronic stress leads to lots of physiological changes. So if you change your life like this, like you see here on the slide, you develop ulcer, diabetes, sometimes cancer, anxiety and depression, autoimmune disorders, and cardiovascular events. So these are all things that we develop due to chronic stress. Actually, it is considered that acute stress is not only okay for us, but is also helpful. You have to react, you have to be agile, and you have to be tensed in order to be active and in order to overcome some difficulties. But in case of chronic stress, it does nothing but bad to our bodies. And so the thing that makes us overcome this chronic stress, because you probably know that there are lots of people, all of us experience stress from time to time, but we know people who after stress become very depressed and anxious, and they can do nothing about that stress. And, just for years after that stress, they live in like sub-depressed state, thinking that everything's bad and going to be even worse. But then there are people who overcome these difficulties very fast, not because they're indifferent and not because they're withdrawn, not because they're not emotionally reacting, but because there are people who are more resilient than other people. And when we say resilience, we mean our ability to withstand difficulties, and not only to withstand difficulties, but also to bounce back. So the main thing about resilience is your ability to bounce back after difficult life events. And actually, it can be considered that we are all biologically and genetically different. And of course, some people are more resilient than other people, and that is due to their genetics. But you should not be thinking that if you're not resilient, then you're going to stay not resilient for the rest of your life, because there are certain things that can be changed in order to make you more resilient. And so researchers, there's a lot like the data of research on resilience and on main characteristics of resilience and what makes you more resilient than you previously were. So there are three, you see lots of points here, but the main thing, the biology is something that we cannot change. So we should not be thinking about it, since we can do nothing about it. But there are things that we can change. And the main things are self-awareness, self-regulation, and mental agility, perspective taking, problem solving. So what is self-awareness? I will explain that later as well. but self-awareness is understanding what's going on with you currently. Because usually our mind, we're doing everything automatically, mechanically. We just wake up, we go to work, we do things that we should be doing, but you just have to think of what is going on right now. There is another thing, there's another word, synonym of self-awareness, the mindfulness, like understanding what's going on to you right now. And if you understand what's going on, then you can regulate yourself. If you understand which mistakes you're making in your cognitive thinking, in your thoughts, then you can regulate them, change them, and make them more positive, and hence you can solve your problems better. So all the research on the main characteristics of resilience and main predictors of people, of resilient people, came to the conclusion that there are lots of predictors, but then there is one predictor that is the best predictor of the resilient people, and this is optimism. Well, we hear lots of things about optimism. We know that you better be optimistic. Being pessimistic as well is bad, sorry. But what is optimism? How do you define it? And how do you become more optimistic? In contrary to what we might be thinking, that this is not possible. There are optimists and there are pessimists. Optimists are never pessimistic. Pessimists are never optimistic. But this can be changed, actually. So what we know is that optimism is when you think that everything, that whatever problem you have, it's going to be better. Like the problem will solve, you'll find the way out. So seeing everything in a good mode. But then this is more about the future thinking, about the future perspective. And then there are other definitions of optimism. You see them on the slide here. So when we have a problem, when we have certain difficulties, there are certain types of reaction that we have. So we can think of the problem as being my fault or someone's fault. Like we can internalize it or externalize it. We can see the problem as stable versus unstable, and that means the stable problem is there forever, like it will just be there and we'll have to deal with it. And then there is unstable problem when we understand that, well, okay, this is a problem, but I'll solve it and we'll find a way out. And then this you can think of a problem as of global and as of specific. Like when the problem is global, it will change all your life. It will undermine all your whatever is happening in your life. And then you can think that the problem is specific, like it's just specific to this current situation. It just related to some part of your life, and everything's going to be fine as well. So if you're thinking of a problem as of external, unstable, and specific, then you're most likely an optimist. If you're thinking of a problem as of internal, stable, and global, then you're probably a pessimist. I'll send at the end of the lecture, I'll just send you the link to check whether you're optimist or pessimist. This is a real psychological questionnaire, not like, valid psychological questionnaire to define your type. But the good thing about it, once again, is that we can change it. What makes us optimists and what makes us see things better, not the events that are happening, but how we react to these events. Like, because everyone experiences tough difficulties in their lives, but not everyone reacts in the same way. So we, all of us, as I already said, like we are used to reacting in the similar way to everything. We don't want to mind creating any other reactions because we already in our comfort zone, and we know even if we're having arguments with someone, we're still comfortably thinking because, well, that is what I'm used to. But in order to become more optimistic and more resilient, you have to change your style of thinking. You have to change your explanatory style. So when something happens to you, you probably already, if you think to yourself, if you think about yourself, each and every one of you, you'll probably understand that you have certain types of reactions that you demonstrate over and over again when you have any problems or when you deal with other people. And so psychologists have the main types of reactions that we usually show are the ones that you see on the slide. And these are mind reading. And these are also called thinking traps, because these are the traps that makes us more nervous, more anxious, and more depressed. mind reading, me trap, them trap, and catastrophizing. So what is mind reading? Mind reading is when you think that you know what other people are thinking of you. Well, when you're having an argument, you think that, well, I said this and she's thinking that about me. Or you think that they can read your mind and that they understand what you are thinking. So, well, we understand that this is not possible, but this is the trap that we fall into over and over again. And then the next time, for example, if you had argument with someone, the next time you see that person, you'll probably not react to what they actually did or said, but you will react to what you think that they thought to themselves and what you think that they did. So this is the mind reading trap. And I think that all of us sometimes fall into that trap. Then there is me trap, when you think that it is only me who is guilty, who is to blame for everything that's going on. So the main word here is the word only me, like the soul. I'm the sole person who is responsible for what is happening. And I'll have to blame only myself. I didn't do this and that. I had to say this. I had to act other way. So I am guilty. Then, well, we understand that if you think of yourself as being guilty all the time, then you're definitely going to be anxious and depressed all the time. And well, this will be just like a circle over and over again. Then there is the opposite trap, and that is them trap, when you think that everyone else except for you is guilty of what's going on. They should have did this and that. They are guilty because they did not respond in time, etc., etc. So this is the other trap, because, well, we understand that one person or all other persons except for you cannot be responsible for all the problems. So you should divide, not internalize 100%, not externalize 100%, but the truth is somewhere in the middle. So, and then there is the, well, I think the most terrible trap, which is catastrophizing. So when something is happening, you just start ruminating that, well, you just go around the circle over and over again, thinking the same thought over and over again, and thinking that, well, the world is over, nothing's going to change, everything is bad, and I will never find a way out. So these are the main traps. And if you think to yourself, you'll probably find your favorite trap that you fall into. So understanding these traps makes us self-aware. We understand what problems we have when communicating with other people. And this is really important in order for us to be able to control these traps, not to fall into them, or even if we're falling into them, to make our way out. So how can we control this? There is certain steps. They are actually very easy, but in order to make them, you have to understand which one should be taken. So these are called real-time resilience. And by undertaking them, you fight your counterproductive thoughts. You just make them disappear. So these are called sentence starters. So if you understand, and if you're aware currently, and you're mindful, and you're understanding that, well, I'm making, for example, a trap of a mind reader. I'm thinking, I know what other people think of me. You can just start thinking, you can just start your sentence with these words. For example, well, I'll take myself. When I was at my fellowship in Harvard School of Public Health, I was, well, you know, you're going to Harvard and you think that, well, everyone is just geniuses and everyone is so smart, and you're going there for fellowship and you're not that smart. You're not, you know, that capable of doing things. And so they would call us to the, you know, in the center and ask us to solve some problems on epidemiology and biostatistics. And I would sit and think to myself, well, I should not be going there because I'm not smart enough. They will laugh at me. They will think that I'm stupid. So that was mind reading, actually. Yeah. Probably they would not be thinking that. And then at one point, I just realized that I'm going deeper and deeper into the stressful thoughts. And I just, well, at that time, I had no idea about all the sentence starters, but, you know, that was just intuitively, I thought to myself, well, they probably will not be think that I'm stupid because, well, since I'm here, then probably I'm not that stupid. And then all of them mind their own businesses currently. So they're doing their own stuff. And then I'm here to learn. And even if I do even any mistakes, well, that's normal. And so I went to the board and did something, I don't remember what, that was 5 years ago, but that really helped me to to realize that every time I try to make the same mistake. So this is mind reading. And then, so if you have the certain trap that you're in, you can just say that that is not true because, but you have to be logical here. You cannot just say that that is not true because I think so. You have to find certain data, you have to find certain proofs why this is not true, right? So, and then you can say another sentence starter is a better way of saying this is, and I'm pretty sure that you'll find lots of ways of better seeing something that's going on. Or you can say, and this is also very, something that's working always. So if you're seeing that you're having that you're in a trap and you're, for example, catastrophizing, you can say to yourself that if X happens, I'll do Y. So if everyone laughs at me, for example, I'll just go and work harder, or I don't know, I'll do something else. So another example from my sister's experience was that she was once in London and she went she was in the mall, and she was sharing, then she said that I met the Queen of Jordan. And so I approached her and said, can we please take a picture? And they took a picture. And so she shared it on Instagram and everyone was wow, wow, wow. And then I asked her, well, I said that I would be very scared to approach a queen and ask her for a picture, because she could have said that, no, I don't want to take a picture with you. And that would be like very stressful for me. I'd be very anxious and very depressed. And then she said that, well, if that would happen, well, she just said no, nothing else happened. If she would just say no, I would just turn away and walk away, and that's it. So this made me think of well, that's true actually. If she says no, then I'm just walking away. The world is not ruining down and nothing happens, and she'll forget about me in a minute. So these are really very important and very useful strategies that look very simple, but actually they do work if you practice them. But in order to practice them, you have to realize which mistake you're making and how you can correct it. And then there is the last mistake that we usually do is catastrophizing. Once again, it's like taking one thought and going over it again and again and again. And with each and every step, with each and every circle, you become more and more depressed, you become more and more anxious, and well, that never helps. So how you can manage catastrophizing is, for example, if you're waiting for a very important decision, any decision, doesn't matter, you can just imagine the worst case that's gonna happen. For example, well, they will decide on my work and they're gonna just fire me. I will have no money, I will lose my car, I will lose my insurance, I will lose like everything. And so how will that make me feel? And then you just imagine your best case. They will give me the promotion, I'll have lots of money, I'll buy another car, for example, of course. I'll do lots of other things. I'll help my parents, I'll help my friends, I'll give my kids to better school, etc. So that is the best case. And how does this make you feel? And after the worst and the best case, you can think of the probable case, of the most probable case, because usually the worst cases and best cases never happen. Usually you're somewhere in the middle. And so you can, of course, you're doing all of this in advance when you're stressed and when you're anxious and when you're ruminating, and you just have to think of the most probable case. Like, probably they will not give me the promotion, but they will not fire me, or maybe they will even increase my salary or something like this. And if this happens, after you realize your probable case, what are the next steps that I will undertake? And if you know your next steps, then you're ready and you're prepared to overcome everything, all the problems that are related to this decision. So these are the main tactics that you have to, that you can, not have to, but you can and should be undertaking if you want to manage your stress. And actually lots of research, there is lots of research on optimism that shows that not only optimistic people they have better jobs, they have better lives, they have better health, and they even live longer than pessimistic people. And this is not just, some social service. surveys. This is a real, serious, valid data. There was a big research among 97,000 women, working women, when they measured their level of optimism, and then they followed them in time, like for 5 years, and they just checked what happens with them after 5 years. And so after 5 years, those women who were more optimistic from the beginning, they had better health, and they were more likely to stay alive, and they were less likely to have any cardiovascular events compared to people who were less optimistic, who were like pessimist people. Then they had also a very big research among insurance companies, like insurance agents, because this is a stressful job. And then they looked at the experienced agents and checked their level of optimism, of course. And then in a couple of months or years, I don't remember now, they just looked at what's going on with them, and they saw that more optimistic people, they had better contracts, they had better jobs, they had better salaries than pessimistic people. And then just to compare, they took younger people, like younger agents who just started their jobs, also measured their level of optimism, and saw that more optimistic people were more likely to stay on their jobs, were more likely to receive invitations from the companies to go on with the job. So this really matters, and your level of optimism defines how you interact with other people, how you communicate with other people. And so if you communicate, because when you're avoidant, when you're withdrawn from other people, and you're just doing the me trap or mind reading, then you probably won't ask for help. If you have any disease, you probably won't go to the doctor, you probably won't look for the medicines or the most recent research on this disease that you might have. And this will lead to you being in a worse health and in a worse situation than any other optimistic people. So what you can do differently in order to try to become optimistic, if you're not already, then you have to try to separate what you can control versus what you have to accept. Because in any situation, there are things that you just can't control, that are out of your control, and well, that's the reality. But then there are always things that you can control. And so instead of focusing your attention on what you have to accept and thinking, oh, what is happening and how I'm going to manage that, while you won't be able to manage that, you can just focus on what you can control. Okay, so this is the first thing. And then you have to take everything as a challenge, not a threat. If there is something happening, even with COVID and all the problems that we experienced, one might be thinking, well, this is a threat, and just run away and hide like an ostrich. And then other people would think that just, well, this is a challenge for me to become more creative, to become more working, to overcome things that I've never saw in my life before. And so this is a challenge and a chance for me to grow up and become smarter, better, etc. And so then you have to prioritize, as I said, approach-oriented versus avoidant attitude. You know, running away from problems never help to solve them. So the only thing is that you have to approach a problem and try to do something about it. That's very simple, but unfortunately not many people do that. So, and there's another thing that is also very helpful in remaining optimistic, is to feel connected to something larger than yourself. So when I say spirituality, that does not mean religious spirituality necessarily. This can be something else. It's just your understanding that you're doing things not just for yourself, but for society, for people around you, for the wellness and good of something that is larger than yourself. So this also helps to keep your motivation and go on. Another important things which we also hear all the time, but which we also don't always practice, is feeling grateful for what's going on. Not like saying thank you, but understanding that, well, there are things that were good even during this 1 year, even when we were very stressed. They were good and they helped us. They helped us to change in a better way. And so appreciating these things is what I mean under saying that, when I say that you have to be grateful and feel gratitude for what's going on. So once again, this is not too much of a religion, although this could be a religious as well, for like people are different, but this is more about how you feel yourself and how you communicate with with the world around you. So trying these things will, of course, all of us could continue falling in these traps. That's normal, like me as well. But the thing is that not to try to avoid these traps, but to try to know the way out of these traps if you're already there, because this will happen to all of us from time to time. So doing these things differently, practicing doing these things differently will help you just to keep your optimism and overcome the barriers that you're facing from time, not only with the COVID, but with lots of other things that, well, unfortunately, we'll have lots of problems in the future as well. So choose to be optimistic because it feels better. And thank you. If you have any questions, please.
Gulay Hanım, thank you very much, very much. I am sure all of us have very strongly related to what you've been saying, recognizing ourselves in certain aspects of it. If you allow me, I will ask the first question, and please, dear participants, please write your questions or raise your hands, and we will give you the opportunity to ask. I have a question more on the like when we say be an optimist. As a professional, as a doctor, what would you say? Is optimism an inborn personal trait? Or like why some people are born optimistic and born pessimistic? Is it something hereditary, or is it the result of what we see in our parents or what we experience through life? And when it's very easy, as a natural optimist, it's easy for me to say that, but is it possible to learn to be more optimistic once we master all the steps you are saying? And how difficult, how easy it is to turn your view on life?
So I would say that it's definitely possible, and I'm not saying that not because, you know, just this is possible because it's possible, but just from my personal experience as someone who is very anxious and who is very, you know, not pessimistic, but who is very prone to ruminating about things and catastrophizing. I know that practicing these things really helps. This really helps, and of course you are born more or less optimistic. That's normal. There is certain genetic component in it, of course, but then there are situations in which we can learn to be optimistic. This is possible. Once again, as I said, optimism is not something that, you know, you just have it or you don't. Even if you don't have it, of course, maybe you will never be as optimistic as someone who is biologically optimistic, but then you will learn to solve lots of problems by approaching them from the optimistic point of view. So once again, as I said, it's not the event that makes us more like feel better or worse. It's our approach to this event. It's how we see this event that makes us feel bad, you know. So even if when we see our patients, when they ask us for some help, we never say that I'll help you to solve that problem. We always say that I'll help you to find a different view at that problem. So more optimistic view at that problem, because you have to solve it yourself. So yes, you can learn to be more optimistic.
Thank you very much. This is something I personally will take on forward in talking to my pessimistic friends. We have another question from one of our participants. Dear Gulay Hanım, do you think that an optimistic person can say, I cannot do it? Are these optimists are also realistic? So yes, optimism versus realism. Interesting question. Thank you.
That's an interesting question, definitely. So once again, that's why when I showed the slide where with the, you know, internal, external, stable, unstable. So this is an ability, of course, to not like, well, everything's going to be fine just because, you know, I'm thinking like that. No. But when you're optimistic, you weigh your chances. And even when you say, I cannot do this, if you're optimist, you have to say, I cannot do this, but I can like do something else. So you never, yes, if you're optimist, you should not be saying, I cannot do this and comma, you know, that you have to go on, because as I'll send the slides, to organizers, and you can just recheck that and try not to start your sentence with I cannot do that. This is never helpful, because this is already pessimistic, So. But yes, when I say optimism, I never mean being unrealistic. You have to always understand what's going on in the situation.
Are there other questions?
Yeah, we've got one question, Suna Hanım. We've got one question externally. It's about the borders and the limits. Gulay Hanım, you mentioned about the experience from your sister with the Queen when she approached and she broke the limits inside of her. So there is a question: where these borders, where these limits, they come from? It's something depends on the environment that surrounds you, or it's something that comes from your parents or family?
I think that limits should be coming not from the family, because this is the main problem between Sigmund Freud and all his students, was that Freud was saying that all the problems are from our childhood and from our parents, but then all his students say that no, society influences us, real world influences us. So of course, if that would be strange if my sister approached this Queen and she would say that no, I don't want to, and my sister would say, well, you're a bad person, you're not doing right things. So this would be, of course, the problem. But then yes, you put the limits yourself. And of course there are situations, if this Queen, if we're taking the Queen example, if she was surrounded with the bodyguards, of course these were the limits that were put by the Queen herself. But since she was not, I could assume that, well, she's open to the fact that someone might approach her and ask something. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Gulay Hanım, there are lots of words of gratitude.
Thank you very much.
Towards your very interesting lecture. Elnaz Hanım says, thanks a lot for your great speech and for useful, motivated information provided. And Firangiz Hanım also thanks you. Dear participants, are there any questions? I'm sure there will be some questions along the way. Now I would like to give the floor to Nargiz Hanım Mustafayeva.
Hi, hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I would like to say some words about AMSEA, the organization which give me a chance to speak with you. So AMSEA is Azerbaijan Medical Simulation Education Association, and we are providing high-level medical education to others, and we help to doctors, students, residents, trainers, medical trainers, researchers to keep in touch with the rapidly changed world of health education. So that is what we are doing, and I'm nowadays I'm trainer in Azerbaijan Medical Simulation Education Center. So today we're gonna talk about, I want to show you my, I would like to demonstrate my...
Aygün Hanım, can you grant an access for Nargiz Hanım as well? Thank you very much.
Nargiz Hanım, could you share your screen?
Okay, yes, I see. Share desktop, okay. Do you see?
Yes, we can see now.
So let me, okay. So now, okay, today we're going I will going to talk about burnout syndrome, about the symptoms and prevention, because I think it's very important to people, because a lot of people sometimes cannot understand what is the stress for him and what is a burnout symptom. So let me introduce myself again. I'm Nargiz Mustafayeva. I'm a clinical psychologist, and nowadays I'm working in AMSEA, which is a part of Moscow State Medical University. So, firstly, I would like you to see a story, like where we're working in simulation. So let me to give you a case, like a story about Tom, who just ended his university. He is very good specialist. He's professional as he think, and he just found dream job, and he's really full of enthusiasm. He's excited of this. He ran early morning. He runs to the job and don't want to leave his job after it ends. But what happened to him after 3 years of such type of his life? He doesn't feel anything, but he feels stressed, he feels exhausted, and he feels disappointed. When I wrote this story, my friends said to me, "Do you write about yourself?" I said, like something like that, but no. So these you can see 3 emotions, which are they're widespread among people who experienced burnout. So, what is actually burnout? Do you see? Okay. So, according to Merriam-Webster dictionary, burnout is exhaustion of physical, emotional strength or motivation, usually as a result of prolonged stress or frustration. According to Beck, burnout is a syndrome made up of emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and reduced personality accomplishment. What does it mean? So burnout has 3 elements, 3 components: emotional exhaustion, when you feel fatigue as a cause of long involvement to the work. It's a depersonalization. It looks like you don't feel anything, no emotions, no, you don't have any reactions to this. And of course, reduced personality accomplishment, when you feel like you are always in the like you are always in a competence with someone, and sometimes you feel that you don't have to do something because it's a waste of time, a waste of energy. So why it happens, before I will talk about why it happens, I want to give you second example. We have 2 people. First human is a woman. She is housewife. She has, for example, 4 kids, sick mom, and a lot of duties. Other human is a young man, again, a young man. He is office worker for 10 years, but unfortunately he doesn't have any free time to have close relationships. For a long time he hasn't a vacation. So between 2 of them, what do you think, in your opinion, who will have burnout syndrome? Maybe you have any question, maybe you have any ideas about it.
The man.
Whom?
Maybe the man who works and who doesn't have any relationships and family and no time.
But a woman doesn't have any time too, because she has a lot of children, a lot of duties, a lot of problems. So in real case, both of them can have burnout syndrome, because we are talking not about the only professional life. We are talking about the feelings undervalued. We are talking about the feelings of too high responsibilities, and for example, person who doesn't see any result of his work, any result of his activity, he can earn like burnout syndrome. So there's a lot of causes of burnout syndrome in real. So there's a lot of causes of burnout syndrome, and it is not only about our profession, because of course physicians, nurses, firemen, for example, they are in a high risk of earning burnout, but it is not only about our professional life. We can, for example, our lifestyle can influence to our feelings of burnout, our feelings of stress, like when we are working too much, when we have high expectations, when we have sleep disturbances, when we have consciousness, lack of sleep. Sometimes some people work till all night, and they understand that they have to do their work, but so what else? And of course, very, very important, it is a lack of supportive relationships, because when you are working a lot, when you are trying to do your work, some people just have a distance between them and their family. Second, it can be named like personality traits, and as said Gulay Hanım about pessimism, about optimism, our pessimistic view to our life, to the world, to ourselves, influence to the our feeling of burnout. Also, I can talk about perfectionist tendencies, when maybe you felt it once, like something what you are doing is not good enough, and you are trying to do all your best. And of course, because of perfectionist tendencies, we can talk about the when we need to be in control, when we are trying to cover everything. So, and sometimes rather in real it happens, so we feel very exhausted because of it. So of course, we cannot forget about our professional environment. We are talking about conflicts at the work, about very high pressure at our work environment, about unclear expectations at our work. Yeah, so everything, all of it can be causes of our burnout. So what else I wanted to mention, that these all feelings, these all symptoms not appear at once, like one day you understand that it's burnout. No, sometimes it can, sometimes it is it's very fluctuative. It's just came to your life like something very normal, and then it's getting worse and worse. So what we at the end we see that we our duties didn't change, but our work is very hard. So on the road to burnout, if every day is bad day, you are exhausted all the time, you feel like nothing you do make a difference or is appreciated, and of course caring about our work or home life seems like a total waste of energy. So what can be our burnout signals? I just wanted to give you again, were widespread, like psychophysical. It should be a chronic tiredness. It should be our low activity when we don't want to do anything. And for example, if half a year ago you trained at the gym and now we don't even go to the park, so it's just a signal. Also, it could be our headaches, stomach dysfunctions, muscle pains. A very loud signal could be our sleep disturbances and also low concentration. So also our cognitive symptoms, our cognitive signals, it could be a sense of failure when we understand that our work will not be successful. It could be hopelessness, it could be powerlessness, it could be poor self-esteem when, for example, sometimes I saw that people don't want to do projects just because they don't believe in themselves, like, I will not, but honestly, they could. So, if people understand that they are at risk, what can we do next? Of course, it's about prevention of burnout. Burnout prevention, when we are talking about it, we can say about healthy habits, like changing something in their lifestyle, like sleep more, eat healthy food, train meditation, something would give us positive resources. It should be take time off. It should be, again, as I said, adopt healthy habits and also supportive relationship, because as I saw people with symptoms of burnout all the time, trying to distance with the co-workers, with the family, with their friends, trying not to communicate with them. So it is in real, it's important. So not to get this situation. So trying to get support from our family, like an example. So, as a prevention of burnout, again, as I said, it should be like to gather sleeping habits, like to understand, like we have to sleep for 7-8 hours per day, about healthy eating, about our physical activity. And also, I want to mention that sometimes we should set our boundaries when we learn to say no to something. And sometimes we hear that how to say no to, for example, to our top manager, to our director, to our head of department, but sometimes maybe it should be easier to think that if you will say no to this, so you will have opportunity to say yes to something what is very interesting to you, what is very positive to you, what will give you opportunity to do something something okay for you. So, and of course, about our hobbies, to trying something new, something fun in your life. So, for example, culture, for example, creativity helps to people to solve problems with the burnout signals that they are feeling. So, and I added one more thing. It's I really fall in love with them. It's if you will see on the screen, it's apps applications in our mobile phones, which help us to they help us to solve some little psychological problems. For example, Rain, for example, anti-panic flights, it's Patronus, and etc. They all help us to solve like panic attacks. There is what is it and what to do if you feel panic attacks. and etc. So we can use these tools for yourself. So maybe you have any questions, I will be very glad to answer to them.
We have a question over here. It was sent again externally. Nargiz Hanım, you talked about the burnout symptoms, about the headache, the bad sleep, and etc. When we say about recovering period, is there any quotes from the medical perspective? So, for example, 2-3 days for recovery, or 1 day, or it just can be taken individually. So one person feels better in a day and it's okay just based on his feelings. Or there is a certain, like another prescription, but it's like advice from the medical perspective to take 3 days to recover the burnout, for example, one of your burnouts, or etc. Thank you.
Something ended. I'm sorry. Yeah. Do you hear me?
Yeah. Everything is great.
Okay. First of all, I want to say that I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm not a doctor. So, but what I can say, if a person feels the symptoms, signals more than 1 month and cannot handle with it. So the first thing is to ask for help from professionals. So mental health officers, psychiatrists, psychologists, psychotherapists can help to cover it. Of course, because of the level of the problems, we can say about medicine, we can talk about psychological consultations, maybe psychotherapical work, yeah. So everything is individual. So, but if person needs to recover, firstly he need to work on the prevention or trying to handle with it. But if it is going more than 1 month, so just ask from mental health workers. So something like that.
Can I just make one short comment on burnout? Since we were just making research on burnout among doctors, and I was reading the literature on that. And so for those of you who are on top positions, one of the best predictors of, not the best, but one of the predictors of burnout is when a person feels unappreciated. So if a worker feels like his work and his activities are not being properly, in his opinion, appreciated, and people are not grateful or thankful, then this is a very huge signal of that the person will probably get the burnout very, very, very fast. And in terms of the period, usually this is not 1 day or 2 days rehabilitation. Usually it takes time. But again, for those who are bosses and who want to understand what's going on with their workers, you have to understand why is the person burning out. Once again, usually that's because of he feels or she feels unappreciated, and then you can just improve the things very fast. But sometimes burnout can lead to very severe consequences, such as, I don't know, psychoactive substance abuse and problems with work, even, quitting the job you're doing. So this is something that should be regarded seriously. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Gulay Hanım, for addition.
Dear participants, we have this really great, rare opportunity when we have psychologists and psychiatrists on the same platform. So if there are other questions, please do ask. And if not, we still have about 20 minutes. But if you don't have questions, if I may I would ask the same question from Ziber Hanım. You have question? No, I think it was just a wrong signal. So before we go, I would like to ask one question to both of you from psychiatrists, where we as a kind of professional women committee, we gather here as the name suggests, the people who work a lot, and as you both have said, it has been a tough year, especially for Azerbaijan. On the top of COVID, we had extremely hard 44 days after the war and now we are facing the consequences, and burnout, stress. These are the kind of sure signs that for all of us. My question is how to move forward, like with all this huge baggage of bad memories. Yes, we will try to be optimistic. How to move forward when we decide that yes, it's enough for us to deal it on our own, and when it's time to seek for professional help from psychologists, psychiatrists, and when we just don't need to kind of call our doctors every minute. So what are the signs? And if you can just give it from both medical and psychological perspective, I would be grateful.
Okay, so I'll start, I guess. Well, as a psychiatrist, well, we usually say that as long as your symptoms are not causing you problems in your everyday life and in your communication with the society, whichever these symptoms are, then you're okay. But even the mildest symptom, it can be very mild symptom of a very mild neurotic disorder. But if you feel like you cannot go on, and if you feel that this is a burden, that this makes a burden for you and for your life and for your work, then well, don't wait. We usually, and I'll talk for myself as well, we usually think that, well, mental disorders are something that are about our will, our ability to gather ourselves and to be strong and to hold and to go on. But actually, these disorders are just the same disorders as all other disorders. So these are biological disorders. And so you should not be waiting for yourself to overcome them, actually. Because when you think that I'll overcome them myself, this usually doesn't happen, and your stress chronifies, and that is it. And when you already visit the psychologist or psychiatrist, that is too late. So my advice would be, don't hesitate to ask for help, be it your family. As I said, we usually prefer to mind read and think that, well, people understand what's going on with me, but people don't understand what's going on with you unless you let them know what's happening. So at least you should try to address your needs with your family, but sometimes the family isn't helping, and they're trying to do the better, they're doing even worse. So whenever you feel like you can't go on, whichever the symptom is, you should be. And then there are symptoms which are, we even have patients who are hallucinating, but sometimes, well, that's not about this situation, but overall. But then they are okay with these hallucinations, and then we say, well, if she's okay, then that's okay. Let her just live her life or his life. So that depends on your ability on your resilience to stress, because we are all different. I cannot give one advice for everyone. So that would be my opinion.
I wanted to add one thing that I totally agree with Ms. Gulay, and I wanted to add one thing that for have a resilience, strength, we sometimes need resources which help us to to meet the stress. So from psychological perspective, only one thing what can help to all of us could be search for positive resources which help us to have to be on a good mood, let's say like this. So just positive resources which will help, something new in your life, something supportive for your emotions, that could be.
Thank you very much, Aygün Hanım. If there are no questions from the floor, from the audience, I think we can use the opportunity to thank our esteemed speakers for this session. I would like to thank you on behalf of Chamber, on behalf of our committee. Thanks to the bright professionals like yourselves, we as a women professional community, at least of French Chamber of Azerbaijan French Chamber of Commerce, we have benefited a great deal from today's session. And on behalf of everyone, I would love to thank you very much and to wish you, I am sure these are very tough times and you have lots of work, lots of people are knocking at your doors, asking for your help. So I would like to wish you all the success. And with your permission, I would like to, someone else have questions. If not, I would love to thank you very much. And I would like to thank you all very much and hope to see you again on sessions of this kind and of other kinds as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for being here. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for participation. Thank you.